just to share some thoughts on active imagination. My own personal experience. So I haven't really read properly Carl Jung's, the full thing of Carl Jung's experience with active imagination. But my experience with active imagination, from what I gather from listening to other people and what I've casually glimpsed, let's draw something. Imagination. So my experience with active imagination, there's, I suppose it's imagination where you're intentionally placing things. So there's this type of imagination, you know, let's imagine a tree, let's imagine a house, let's imagine a car, and the car is going to London with some people, and they're off shopping, or the shops, and they just come from a house over in Bristol, let's say, and they live near some woods. And so this is just kind of like, I suppose you're controlling what you're putting in your imagination, I suppose. Although you could probably go deeper into this and you think, actually, no, you're not in control. And so this is all part of it as well. So, but anyway, this is kind of like, you know, and just sort of think of this, imagine that, and imagine you go into the moon. But active imagination, that from my own personal experience, is something a bit more passive. And you're letting it go. So my analogy of active imagination, so it's almost like got a dog. So here's your dog. So your dog is like, just imagine your dog is like your imagination. And you take the dog off the lead. So throw away the lead. There goes the lead, goodbye, out of the way. And then the dog, you just watch. So watch the dog. So you're watching doggy, and the dog, it just starts moving everywhere. You know, like, you know, as they do, sort of charging around the field, charging around the park, and they're just, you know, weeing against the trees and this and that, and smelling other dogs and what have you. But you're observing. So what you're doing is that you're concentrating. So this, here's the eye, you the observer, and you are focusing on the dog. You're concentrating on the dog as the dog charges around. And so in this state, when you're observing your imagination, so imagine this is like the analogy of the dog. When you're observing your imagination, it's whatever you're imagining, just weird stuff, whatever's happening, and it's just exploding. So there's all these different things that's happening, and all you're doing is just watching, and that's it. So your mind's eyes just observing. And so in this state of this observation, you can actually interact with it. So it becomes, so the idea is that this is like an environment that is alive. So instead of you controlling it, you know, like what I was saying about having the dog on the lead, where you're intentionally, right, here's the tree in the woods, and you live in Bristol and you're off to London, you know, you're imagining this, and you're imagining going shopping, you're imagining what t-shirts you're going to buy, or imagining who you're going to meet, and you're intentionally placing things. So you're taking, letting go of all that, which is where you're taking the dog off the lead instead of keeping it on the lead. And so this running around effect, where you're just observing the imagination, just letting go, and you then start to interact with it like it's like an oracle. It's like this entity that you've let off the leash, so to say. You can then interact with it So it's almost like throwing pebbles in a pond. So you're going to throw a pebble. Let's imagine a pond. So let's draw a pond. I suppose that's the phrase of to ponder. I'm going to see pondering. And you're watching the ripples. So each pebble you throw, there is a question on it. You're asking a question. So every pebble you chuck in, there's a question. So something simple. What's the best thing for me to know today? And then you're observing the ripples. And so you're getting like a feedback. So you pay attention to that. And so you pay attention. So what, in my own experience, so pay attention to everything. So it's not just what you're watching. So it's not just what do I see? It's also what do I hear? So what am I hearing? What am I hearing? What words are the words? Are they just sounds? Something else, something strange? Can you feel anything? So it's like feel. Even smelling. Some people might be able to smell. Let's draw a nose. Big nostrils. There we go. Smell. And or even felt like the heart. Let's do a heart. So it's like these are things that you're sensing out of this environment. You're watching, you're making notes. And there's, from my experience, there's a type of language that comes out of this. So the more time you spend in this imagination, so go back here. I was talking about concentrating. You concentrate on, when you've taken the imagination off the lead, let it run round wild, so you're concentrating. And to be able to concentrate, to be present, it's quite difficult. So it takes time, it takes practice. And this is something I believe that we can all do. But you just, like anything, you're going to want to do it. I believe we can all knit jumpers. But you have to want to knit, learn to knit a jumper. So with the active imagination, if you really want to do this, you can do it. And so when you first start, you may find like your level of concentration is just 10 seconds. 10 seconds. So 10 secs. And so be it. You don't think, oh, I can't do it, I'll stop. You think, you know what, I want to pursue this. And so you do like 10 seconds, see if I can push it. So it is like exercising, you're doing the plank, for example. You do I can do 10 seconds of the plank. The plank is where you hold yourself like that, just on the ground. So you can, 10 seconds. And then you hold on the focus onto your imagination for 15 secs. And then you make to do it a minute, 1 minute. And so you find how longer and longer and longer, like 30 minutes. 30 minutes of being in this environment, observing. You may even make it into an hour. Imagine that, as you keep practicing. But as you immerse yourself in this environment, there's all sorts of symbols, there's all sorts of metaphors. There's a kind of language that's coming out. So it's just like if you're in another country. So it's like, you're in China, there's two people having a conversation, and you're there listening. Here's your ears, you're listening. So you're listening to them talk, and it's just, what the hell? But as you stay there over time, you get to know, and it's like, you get it. So, oh, okay, I understand what they're all saying. And so this is the same thing in the imagination. It takes time. So when you're paying attention to that environment, you're paying attention to it. It's like, what the hell's that? It's just nuts, mad, wow, crazy. And then it's just like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And so it's like I don't know, what's a bingo? Let's do bingo, how about that? So bingo, you get it, bang. And then you can delve deep. So you start, I suppose this is alchemy. So you start going deeper and deeper into all the strange symbology that starts coming out, and you actually find it easy to interpret and read. So this is the phenomena of my own experience of active imagination. And so with active imagination, I've discovered you can actually, it seems to cross into, it's almost like there's an actual world. So that's a bit of a big head there. Let's do, so here's someone imagining, or they're involved in active imagination, and they're interacting in this world. So I call the imagination the imagination, so it's not my imagination. So it's like swimming in the sea. And so it's like observing, and it's like, oh yeah, it's all stuff. And then someone else is involved in active imagination. So it's almost like they're both observing something in the similar environment. And this is how I suspect people can do readings through the imagination, because this is my experience of being able to, from reading people through active imagination, because I imagine people as, say, like a house. So I think, oh, okay, I'm going to do a reading on someone, and I see them as like a house. So they're a house, and stuff starts happening inside the house, and so the person moves around and doing stuff upstairs and stuff downstairs, and in the cellar it's like the subconscious, and they go up here, and then I start interpreting what's actually going on in this environment. This is how I see into people. And the other interesting thing with active imagination, there's an interesting video by, let's write her name, Becca Tarnas. It's called The Red Book. The Red Book. And The Red Book. So Becca Tarnas, The Red Book, and The Red Book. And what she's talking about, so she's a big fan of Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, like into like elves and all that sort of stuff. And so she noticed, so here's Tolkien, so he's there like, oh yeah, Lord of the Rings and all that. Anyway, let's imagine this is Middle Earth, where we go, is it Middle Earth? Middle Earth, Lord of the Rings. So he's there, journeying around in Middle Earth. So this is Tolkien. And he's there imagining. And then you've got Jung, Carl Jung. Let's put Jung. So Jung, he's imagining as well. But of different time periods. Whatever, Red Book, how about that? Let's just do book, that's red. There we go. So Jung, he's involved in his active imagination, and then Tolkien, he's involved in this world, like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that. And what Becca Tarnas points out is that there's an interesting crossover. Tolkien, was it the Red Book of Westmarch? And so Tolkien did this Red Book of Westmarch, and Tana, she noticed an interesting crossover, even though these two never met. They didn't meet, and so they were like different ages, different times, but there's a interesting crossover in their own development. So anyway, that's interesting. But this is my own experience of active imagination, where you let it off like a dog in a lead, and let it go. And when you ask questions, it's like throwing like a pebble into a pond and watching the ripples and go, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Make notes of it as well. So make a note of what you get, and write it down. Let's draw a pen, whatever. And so make notes of all the things that you're getting, and you begin to build up like a big picture, and there's all sorts of stuff that come out of it. And I've done a book all from active imagination, The Rose Bridge. So yeah, that's it.